I'm just saying, it seemed like there was one guy singing a very different tune in that documentary.
Yeah, and he looked scared with every word he spoke.
Fascinating. Right?
You know who didn't look scared?
I'll be
Tim.
sure.
No, Tim. When he started talking about that house of horrors they grew up in.
I was just talking about that on the previous live stream. Please
That
just answer me this.
disturbed me.
No. Answer me this. My previous live stream was: did Diddy's mother create Diddy? Right? Just from a boundaries of a young man, take us through when you heard about his upbringing in that house. Take us through how that made you feel.
In the Bible that so many people that say they're worshipers of God read, it says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is older, he will not depart from it. That man sat there and said that him and his mother were invited to come and live in that house so Diddy could have a companion because there were no kids around. She didn't need the woman as a tenant for money because of all of the, the bad money that was left behind when Diddy's father passed. They were there so that Diddy could have a companion his own age. She had him dressed like a pimp at 4.
Yeah, right.
That was crazy, the outfit he was wearing.
He's been Diddying his whole life, showing off, flashing. What 4-year-old little kids look at my shoes? Like, your average 4-year-old kid can't wait to take them off so they can run around barefooted in their socks. They're not. That's how he was being groomed. I'm sorry, G-united at 4.
Okay. So
Tim also said that at any given moment, you could walk through the house and there would be nude adults doing God knows what, and there was all kind of substances. I think it's very clear that Janice is responsible. But I've always said, every bad guy in history had a mom.
Yeah.
Look at Jeffrey Dahmer's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Manson had a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Hitler had a mom.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of monsters had moms. And guess what? When you go back and look, their moms had serious problems or were monsters too.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Dahmer's mom suffered from mental illness, and she was overly medicated on all kinds of crazy things that rewired his brain upon birth.
Yeah.
See, doctors are responsible for that.
Yeah.
As well. There is no doubt in my mind, and there shouldn't be any doubt in anyone's mind, that Janice Combs created this issue that's plaguing the world now. Like, he's literally Rosemary's baby.
Do you think, Jag, it's out of the realm of possibility that at some time in his upbringing, he's witnessed his mother using the sex for blackmail purposes, and this is deep rooted inside him? Because
something.
Yeah.
His mother and his father were hustlers from Harlem.
Yeah. Okay.
They were in those streets. If Diddy's father impregnated this woman with his child, it was probably because she knew how to navigate in that world.
Right.
She knew where to go get all the money that was left behind. Typically when you have a hustler, unless his woman is in on what he's doing, when he passes away, they don't know where to go find the money. They don't know where to go do this because they were kept out of it. Like, you got two kinds of women that deal with hustlers. You got the kind that are partners and accomplices, and then you have the kind that are the front. The nice, sweet, loving, wonderful woman who knows absolutely nothing.
Facts.
She doesn't know where the money is because he never told her those things. Like you hear these stories when you hear about these hitmen that come out from all of these years with families and wives and neighbors, and no one knew because
Yeah.
that's what that family was put in place for.
Correct.
But if Janice was able to go get the money, if Janice was able to keep the lifestyle up like nothing had happened after Diddy's father passed away, then I think it's fair to say that she was in on it. He was a hustler and he was a snitch who was snitching out his crew. You don't think he asked her to get informations on some of his, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it all makes too much sense. What we're seeing is your typical African American dysfunctional family played out in real time. That's what this is. What bothered me though is that they were sitting there asking Tim to ask, how did he end up like this? You grew up with him, you were there. He sat there and told us what was going on in that house when they were children. How is he not just as traumatized as Diddy? They
Yeah.
were both kids watching all of that crap go on. And his mother chose to move into that house knowing who Janice Combs was. That woman had a reputation. Ask Dapper Dan. What kind of mother moves her and her child into a den of iniquity to raise kids? I wouldn't say that's a good mom at all. So, how is asking another person who was a child growing up in that situation? How do you ask him anything? The man's living out in the middle of the woods like he's in Witsec willingly.
Yeah.
Hey, Tommy.
How are you, Jag?
I don't know. I think we about to get spicy. Glad you
Yeah,
showed up.
ain't no question.
Scoville by name, Scoville by nature. Welcome, Tommy. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good. How you doing there, Yum Yum? What's up
I'm
with the
good.
red light? We know what that means, right? We've
Yeah,
all been
listen.
studying, bro. We know what that red light means.
Listen, all I'm saying is sometimes, right, you have to just remove certain factors from. We'll talk about it later, Tommy. Okay, but just look into my hypnotic circle, Tommy. Look into my hypnotic circle. Okay.
Yeah, no, I see
Yeah.
how it's working. I actually saw you the day that came out of the basket, but I didn't see the red light until now. But we
Yeah.
know what's up. Everybody
Yeah.
is
Well, I'll
welcome.
be honest with you. In my room right now, it is way brighter than it looks, and there's no stress on my eyes, and it is just a glorious for my corneas.
That's
This is
awesome.
fabulous.
That's awesome.
Well, there's
Couldn't be
no
happier.
minors present, so it's safe.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're
We're
good.
good. Yeah, we're good.
You know, but can I do a little? I'm just going to fan out a little bit, and I don't care. But
Yeah.
Jag, you had to love that documentary, man, for real. Because you talk about that whole documentary was that if you remove the part on the couch, there's no theory to anything that happened there. That had to be validating as hell, right? That had to feel good, man.
Well, considering that it was put together by the enemy
Right?
and they couldn't get around that conversation without acknowledging it, that spoke volumes. The part about it that I liked is that the clip that they got from the blue couch, that we filmed that in November of 2022.
Yeah.
For that to be there and then to use that to introduce my friend I'll Be Sure into the documentary, that was powerful. I was glad that at least if they were going to use me, they were going to use me to address something very real that has been being talked about publicly for years, and people have been just ignoring it. I don't know how many times I've sat on panels and cried about what my friend went through.
Yeah.
And about how many times we prayed him back to life. I don't know how many times I've said that, in my opinion, I believe Kim Porter's demise was foul play and that her baby daddy was behind it. I've been called a liar. I've been called a this. I've been called a that. It's been a this. It's been a that. And now finally, my friend gets to say it for himself.
Yeah.
And he looked great in that documentary. And I don't just mean like health wise, but I mean, like I watched that with my brother Johnny when it was over. He's like, man, you gotta love him. You know what I mean? Like, and he comes across as just a solid human being. You could see how much he loved Kim and how these are gangsters, man. Like I think this,
he loves her still.
Yeah, still fighting too.
Of course.
Like a husband does for his wife. People keep forgetting that part. Albert and Kimberly were married. They were married.
And it's his baby's mama too.
Quincy,
I mean, that's the mother of his dad.
was conceived in that marriage. Imagine what it's like to be a father, knowing that your woman has been coaxed away from you and then put in a prison. You know, I think the most important thing that Albert said was what I've been saying ever since the Cassie tape came out, ever since the Cassie lawsuit came out. And Albert finally confirmed it. It wouldn't be about the Cassie case. If Kim were alive, it would have been about Kim. See, everything that Kim did made it possible for Cassie to do what she did. And I've been saying that. I've been calling it. Kim is a hero because she was willing to put her life on the line for it. And honestly, if it wasn't for Kim, I don't think Cassie would be here either. Nobody talks about that. At least nobody but me until now. But it's just bizarre knowing how long I've been saying all of these things and advocating for my friend and advocating for his life after the multiple attempts made on it.
You know what, Jag? I think one thing you should consider is us having a chat and putting together a documentary, because there's a lot of Jag lore. I've always said this to you. Like when we met, you know, I know more about you, Jag, now because we chat as friends and things, than the Jag lore. You know what I mean? And I think that documentary was so easy to consume, and there were so many points, and I learned a lot about the people who you've been talking about for months because of how this information was delivered. It's something that we chat about, because I think people would love that.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to open up and share all of this. You know, it's just that every time I get to talking, people get scared.
Yeah.
I went live on Instagram yesterday with MIA. Who knew it would be so explosive?
Yeah. Well, listen.
Well, no offense, Jag, but at this point, I kind of just expect if you're there, it's probably going to be explosive. But that, hey, you know something? But keeping it real, those really old recordings of you sitting on the couch, I got into the Diddyverse because of all of the stuff that you were doing in the beginning. The videos that I saw of you back then, the only reason that I'm doing this, the only reason I started down that rabbit hole was because of the things that you were saying back then. I was blown away the first time I saw you. I was like, holy crap. Yeah, I was floored. I really was.
You know what?
Trying to go, Jag.
So was I.
I can't imagine it.
Because I knew what I was. I think people have a hard time understanding that I was aware of what was going to happen to me. And I still did it anyway. And I'm proud of myself. But not for me, because when Albert finally tells everyone everything.
Yeah, you got that impression. You really did.
Yeah, you could hear him pump the brakes on multiple occasions, saying there was a lawsuit pending, and you know that this was evidence that he could. But you could see he wanted to tell it as you know, as much as you want him to tell it. It's
It was
Gotta be hell. Can't imagine
It'll
that.
come. That day,
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Yeah.
But that's why me being on the front line of exposing all of the fake so-called victims and witnesses is important,
I agree.
because I don't think people understand these people. I'll obliterate them from the face of the earth before I let them screw over my friend's chance for justice.
Yeah, I agree.
And not just for him, but for us all.
Yeah.
What I'll Be Sure is about to do has the ability to change the entire landscape of how American music history in the past 35 to 40 years is going to be seen. And I'm out here. I'm out here clearing that path. You know, I I don't have a problem with doing block and tackle as long as we make it to the end zone.
Yeah. Well, since we brought up your friend, right? I need to ask you, when it comes to I'll Be Sure, his marriage, his son, the fact that Diddy almost took it from him like a trophy.
Oh
You
no,
know?
he didn't almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it wasn't real, even though the adoption stories were fake, even though the stories about him being a deadbeat dad were fake, even though the stories about him being a
Right.
bum and a has-been, all of that stuff was fake. It was all invented by Diddy. Imagine what it's like to watch the whole world buy in to a monster story when you've been nothing but a stand-up human being
Yeah.
the entire time.
And then be seen together, smiling about it.
Well,
That's the thing. It's
that wasn't for Diddy. That was
I
for
I know.
for
Yeah.
Kim.
Oh,
That's
I
how
know.
much that man loved that woman. There's nothing that
Yeah.
he wouldn't have done for her.
That was the thing that blew my mind, Jag.
I was
When-
about to say, for anybody that didn't see this this documentary, he talks about being in the studio with his with Kim as a new wife, and also had Quincy, had his baby there. And Diddy came into the studio and said, "Boy," and keep in mind, right, Misha Hilton's there with him, and he said, "Boy, I wish I had a beautiful woman like that."
Yeah.
Right to Albie's face.
In front
And
of
Albie said,
Misa.
"You do, you do, Misa." And he just proceeded to
with
steal it.
Misa. This is the same woman who, right after the Cassie lawsuit came out, started, number one, she started crying and complaining about what a bad example of a father Diddy was, and how he wasn't going to drag her son down, and he wasn't going to do this, and he wasn't going to do that. Then the Cassie thing hits, and then all of a sudden she's wants to do interviews about the legacy of Bad Boy and all that Diddy has done, and whoopty whoopty woo. Maybe people need to go back and revisit that,
Yeah.
because this man didn't nothing but treat you like crap. Now, Albert is telling the story of how Diddy sat there and said, "You weren't beautiful enough. I want that one."
Yeah.
Right in front of your face.
Yeah, of course.
We have Gene Deal telling the stories of the time that Misa had to be saved from Diddy, to where he was going at her with his foot up underneath a car. This is decades ago,
Yeah.
when the children were all young. It's a battered woman.
Yeah.
And she was sitting up there defending the very man who had done nothing but disrespect to her entire life, and throw money at her and get her to dress people up in clothes from the designers that he selected. Like, all of these people have been they have been controlled. And the financial abuse, forcing people to live off of your money, off of your wage, and then keeping them in line by letting them know, if you don't go along, I'm going to cut you off. These are people that don't know how to live any other way, never lived any other way, need to depend on all of these things. So what happened with the women? And now let's think about the children.
1 second, Tommy. I need to just check on Nova
Sure.
and keep this
Yeah,
going.
knock
Right?
yourself out.
What about the children? If this is how the children have been raised in this kind of controlling environment, stands to question that they would say anything they're told to not to get cut off.
Yeah, no question.
I mean, what do you think about what I'm saying, Tom?
Well, it's a control group. It really is. It's an absolute control group. This dude ran his life like a cult, right? There really is not much difference. I've been watching all, the clips of film of him right before they're getting on the boat. Every single person go around to family. No, you got 3 phones. I know you got 3 phones. Got every single person there throwing their cell phones in bags. This was a guy that he is so systematic in everything he did. I always step back and think, there ain't no chance in hell this guy didn't have so much more help. Like, I'm sorry to bag on the guy, but did he honestly look like he is smart enough to pull this off? The number of people that got to be involved in an operation like this?
No.
Yeah.
He's not smart enough. And not because he's stupid, but because he has no impulse control.
Exactly.
He doesn't have the discipline to be able to hold all of this together, which means someone was covering him this entire time.
Yep.
Question is, if my friend Gene Deal is also now lightweight validating me by saying that when it came to Diddy and Jay-Z, they were a package deal. How do you have a friend like that for that long? That all of a sudden, when Rico was on the table and it's looking like you might get drawn in, all of a sudden y'all not friends? He has not said one thing to denounce
business associates.
Yes, but even as a business associate, I know plenty of people who stopped doing business and having anything to do with Robert R. Kelly once it was discovered and made very aware of what it was and came out and denounced. That has not happened with the diddler. Business, whether it's a business associate or a best friend.
They're brothers, man. They're brothers. Miss me with that. I laughed so hard when he said that. They're business associates. Like he just, they're, or industry. That's what they said. They just know each other from the industry. Like every once in a while they run into each other at an award show or whatever. Man, their kids are calling each other uncle. You know what I mean? Like this, they're as tight as, and you're right. Gene Deal has validated that. I mean, he is, in fact, and he said he's not, in fact, I heard it this morning. I was watching it. And what Gene said was, it isn't going to be as bad. I think it's because what you just said. He's got better impulse control, right? You've been saying this from the beginning. Of the two of them, he's more patient, right? And he's smarter. I remember the first time you said calculated. That was the word you used.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Which is how I know they knew all of this was coming. This Peacock documentary that just got released this week went into production in September before I sat with Pierce Morgan.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Tommy, as well.
Oddly enough.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. Before I did Pierce Morgan, which was the first time I had on-screen interaction with Ariel Kidd.
Mm.
Now, Ariel Kidd had 2 clients in that documentary. We know one of them. Oh, Courtney B.
Yep.
Lisa Bloom had 1 client, but her client didn't speak.
Yep.
She spoke on behalf of Don Richard, but Don Richard did not appear. And then, I mean, think about who was there. No, none of the other victims who were there speaking. There's only the one.
Mm.
That one main one. There was, I mean, honestly, in that documentary, there's 2 victims. I'll be sure. And what's her name? Ashley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the 2 victims.
Yeah.
I'll be sure's lawyer didn't speak. He spoke. Lisa Bloom spoke, but Don Richard did not appear. Yet Ariel Kidd did appear.
No.
And 2 of her clients also appeared.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
just seemed a little weird.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Especially considering
when it was filmed.
everything that happened after that.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
What I see is some real mixed in with a bunch of misdirection. Because in my opinion, to include Courtney Burgess in that at all was so disrespectful to Albie.
Especially after everything that came out and everything else. I mean, I
So
thought the same thing.
disrespectful to Albie Shore.
Or at least use a clip like you did with Jag, where he's framed terribly and sounding like a lunatic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, at least
friend.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm just saying I mean, listen, I'm not saying a lunatic, Courtney, if you're watching, right? I'm not saying you're a lunatic, but you give some spicy answers. You give some spicy answers. But hey, let me just circle back for a second, right?
I just want to really highlight what I just said, and I need to let Tommy go on this. I'm gonna drop this off, and I'm gonna let y'all pick it up. The very man who's been busted for illegally and in a very strange manner releasing Kim Porter's book with all of the salacious stuff that was in it, especially all of the stuff that was added about the so-called threesome between Albert, Diddy, and Kim.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that they had out there in that book. And when you look at it now, you can see it was a clear hit piece on Albie Shore before he got a chance to tell his story.
Okay.
And that you put him in the same documentary with the man who had to go after Amazon to take that crap down.
I got your point there. I definitely see your point there, 100%. I definitely see your point.
And I think you nailed it. And I think it's because of how this thing was built. I would be willing to bet any amount of money. I mean, if you look, first of all, the way they framed a lot of what was said by Albie Shore, the way that they edited that so that he was talking about how the reason he thinks that his bride met her demise, right, was because she was going to meet with Cassie. They kind of framed it in such a way where if you were brand new to it, it made it sound like, so that's the stuff that Burgess has got, right? I mean, it really is like deceptive with how the thing was put together.
It's very deceptive until you speak to a person who knows that Cassie and Kim met at the Ivy, who knows that Kim slid Cassie something. Now, all of a sudden, Chris Todd wants to do interviews talking about it was Kimora. No, it's not. It couldn't be. Kimora's too scared.
I want to get your take on something, Jag.
People got to remember, you had Kimora, you had Kim, and you had Erica. Erica Kennedy is the one that wrote the book, Bling, about the corrupt music industry people and the relationship that this woman had and all of the illicit things. If you go back and read that book now, it lines up with everything we're talking about, with the freak offs, with all of that. She put it out. Kimora told her not to. Kim supported her. And as soon as it hit the bestsellers list, Erica was gone. This was back mid 2000s, like 2012, 2013. For almost a decade now, she's watched both of her best friends that she ran New York with, the Manhattan Three. She's all that's left. And her ex-husband is Russell Simmons.
He ran.
And she was also treated with the G-Unit behavior when she was a kid. Kimora ain't doing nothing.
Okay, I want to hit you with something, Jag. There was something that was said, and it really hit home the mindset of Diddy that I just want to get your take on, because there was a moment.
The Ivy burned down.
There was a moment where they were talking about the girl bands that Diddy had put together over the years. And one of them had done something in the studio, and Diddy turns and goes, "Hey, don't worry, if she doesn't sort herself out, I will DURG her and PIMP her out to my N words, right?
Yeah.
And that's a woman he has built a working relationship with and had, like he's invested in this person, whether it's business or finance, he's invested in this person. And he's willing to do that to them. And then we apply what you would do behind closed doors to what he's willing to do to the friends of people he knows that are brought to parties, people that have been transported, all of this. Because hearing that level of outspoken